producer Lillian Garcia. Every athlete is on this quest. Every performer dives in head first, battling real-life challenges and overcoming obstacles in an effort to make their dreams reality. Singer, speaker, and 15-year WWE host Lillian Garcia was the first woman to ever announce WrestleMania and is now the PFL MMA cage announcer. And now she's giving you an all-access pass to the human interest stories of elite athletes, extraordinary entertainers, and wellness experts. Now, let's embark on another fascinating journey of chasing glory with your host, Lillian Garcia.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Chasing Glory, and this time we are in Orlando. Why Orlando? Well, that's because today's guest, Tommaso Ciampa, he is all NXT. I mean, this guy lives and breathes NXT, and I wanted to go ahead and bring you the sights from Full Sail University. That is where NXT goes live every Wednesday night on the USA Network. Now, I got to experience my very first NXT live event just last night since they've gone live on the USA Network, and the electricity in there was just amazing. You know, it's not just the fans, it is the superstars, it is the people that work at NXT, it is everyone that is making this so electrifying, as The Rock says. So let me tell you a little bit about NXT and Full Sail. Actually, Full Sail, came about in 1979. They were in Ohio, and then in 1980, they decided to move to Florida. It wasn't a university until many years later, like in the 2000s is when it became a university. It had to gain its stripes, let's say. But it's gotten some of the best reviews and awards for being great in recording, whether it's film, whether it's music. It has a lot of production. In fact, even in the back, they got about 18 backlots, and that's where they shoot. Just like they do in Hollywood when they have the sets where you think you're at a pharmacy, for example, or at a restaurant. Well, they have them back there, and so they shoot a lot of content. It's great. It's an amazing experience here. And what is so awesome is NXT being here actually helps the university. It's a win-win because NXT actually got formed in 2010. It is only 9 years old, almost 10. And now NXT, because it began as a developmental program, Triple H produced this whole thing together. It is now its own brand. Like I said, it's every Wednesday night. They are proving that they are their own brand. And it's the talent and the spirit of NXT that is making it so successful. And of course, all the fans, all of you that have embraced NXT and have seen the talent that is coming out of it. So 2019, that's it. It is live now every Wednesday night. Well then, when I said that Full Sail and NXT have had like this great relationship, that is because a lot of the sales from the merchandise and from the tickets, it contributes to a scholarship for the students here at Full Sail. So it is a win-win. And some of the students work at NXT in the tapings. It is just a really big win-win. I love it. Full Sail University, it's awesome in there. It's just so quaint and intense and just full of so much life. So you gotta experience a live NXT show next time you are in Orlando. Okay, so Tommaso Ciampa, he really is NXT. And we sat down and we had an amazing conversation. Now, he told me he does not do a lot of interviews. In fact, he's only done about 2 or 3 other podcasts. Some of them have been like 8 years ago. So this is very special that we got him on Chasing Glory. And we dove in deep in hopes to help a lot of you out there that may be experiencing the same thing, because some things, especially with the mind, they just stay with us. But he does give some great tips on what to do and how to help you through every single day in this life that sometimes gets very, very difficult. But we can all do it. All of us together. That's what it's all about. Okay, so thank you for listening to the show. You can, remember, watch the show, youtube.com/Lillian Garcia. Definitely follow the show at Chasing Glory on Instagram, at Lillian Garcia on Instagram and Twitter, Lillian Garcia official fan page on Facebook, and also make sure that you download the Chasing Glory app. It is that simple. You can listen to it whether it's Spotify or Apple Podcast, or you get the drift by now. All right, so without further ado, here we go, guys. Here is Tommaso Ciampa's journey of chasing glory.
Although there have been numerous ups in his career, Tommaso Ciampa never let the downs define him. Trained by WWE Hall of Famer Killer Kowalski, Ciampa would begin his wrestling journey in his home state of Massachusetts, where he would hone his craft all over the New England area. Just after a few months of training, Tommaso would make an appearance on SmackDown as an attorney, where he received a chokeslam and a tombstone by The Undertaker. After wrestling in multiple enhancement matches, Ciampa would receive a developmental contract with the WWE, where he was sent to Ohio Valley Wrestling. However, injuries would set him back, and he was let go from his contract only 6 months after. Tommaso would return to the independent scene, where he would become one of the top free agents in the country. He wrestled for top companies such as TNA, Ring of Honor, and PWG, and would win the highly coveted Super 8 tournament, defeating future rival Adam Cole in the finals of that tournament. All his success would lead to the opportunity of a lifetime when he was invited alongside Johnny Gargano to compete in the first ever NXT Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. The new tag team would impress officials, and it wouldn't be long before Tommaso Ciampa was offered a full-time NXT contract. Together known as DIY, Ciampa and Gargano would become NXT Tag Team Champions by defeating The Revival in what was considered the 2016 Match of the Year. Ciampa's career would take a turn when he ruptured his ACL, and he would be sidelined for nearly a year, but not before double-crossing Johnny Gargano after a classic ladder match. Ciampa would come back with a vengeance and was involved in the 2018 Rivalry of the Year with Gargano that resulted in multiple 5-star matches. The momentum led to Ciampa defeating Aleister Black for the NXT Championship, a title that he held for 237 days until bad luck would strike him once again, where he had to vacate the title due to a neck injury. After a brief uncertainty of not knowing whether he would ever wrestle again, Ciampa made his return 7 months after his surgery, confronting his past rival, Adam Cole, and has since been a strong force for NXT. With the emergence of NXT as a third brand, Tommaso Ciampa is destined to be a shining star for the foreseeable future. Get fired up, because it's about to get real, raw, and inspiring with Tommaso Ciampa.
And here we are. I'm so excited for this interview. Thank you so much, Tommaso.
Just kind of fell in our laps.
I know, it's awesome. Here we were at NXT last night, and just talking, and I had actually told WWE that I wanted to do you, and then it was like, oh, the schedule's crazy, and they're going to Chicago the next day, and then you're like, well, not me. Yep. I've got my own ticket. I'm going later.
If I get an extra day at home, I will take it. Yeah.
But I love the fact that you even said, hey, you want to come over and do it? And here we are in your gym of your house, which is awesome.
This gym is slowly getting more and more famous between Sheamus's Celtic workout and now this, and then this is my Instagram post at all times with little Willow doing workouts and rehab and all that. So.
Oh, I love it though.
Yeah.
But is it nice to have your own gym?
Oh yeah, place? Obsessed. I mean, it was so I always wanted to have a home gym. And my goal coming to Florida, I was like, oh, I'm going to have one of those garage gyms, of course. And then you're renting an apartment, you don't have that. And when my wife and I finally were like, all right, we're going to settle here, we're going to buy a house. This whole room was just like, and it's under the padding. It's tile floor. I have no idea what they used it for. Like some of the neighbors have the pool rooms, and ours didn't have the pool, but it had this. And then I had asked her, I said, can I just turn half of it into a gym? And she was on board. So we got the matting. We did half the room. We started again, just basic equipment, dumbbells and stuff. And the little one, when she was crawling, was obsessed with the mats because it's soft on her. The dogs were obsessed with the mats. So then we were like, well, okay, we'll just mat the whole floor. And half of it will be like a playroom and half will be a gym. And one thing leads to the next. And this has become our like everything room. Hot in the summer.
Oh, is it?
Oh, like
Yeah.
crazy, like
Because you can
bonkers
you put
hot.
in air?
I mean, we could put we can't like it's because this is an attachment to the house. We can't like have the AC run in. We could leave the door open and shut the windows.
Yeah.
But we like to have the windows open, so we
Oh.
keep the windows open. It's like 100-something degrees. So I like training in the hot.
You do?
I love it.
Oh, God.
Like I actually miss it right now.
Oh my God! I hate
But
it.
because now it's so nice in Florida in the
Yeah.
mornings and stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
the little one loves this because
Yeah.
I mean she'd have the little sweat on her nose and stuff, and we'd feel bad. We could only keep her out here for 10 minutes at a time.
Right.
Now, I mean, I could do a 2-hour workout out here,
Right.
and she'll play, and she has all her toys down there. And
No, it's nice out here. Yeah.
I love
But
it.
you know, I've tried Bikram yoga, which
Love
you know.
it. You don't like
Oh,
it. You don't like
okay.
it. It's not for everybody.
This is what happened. So I get invited to do this. It's like I think it was for Susan G. Komen or
Okay.
something, right? And they're like, "There's Bikram yoga," and I'm like, "Yeah, I've done yoga, but I've never done the hot yoga. I'm not big on hot. I'm
Yeah.
just not." And so they're like, "Oh," but they didn't tell me it was Bikram yoga. They were like, "No, it's just yoga,
Yeah.
whatever." So I go and I walk in the door and I feel that heat. I mean, it just took over me, and I was like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I can't do
You
it.
didn't do the workout?
I can't.
Oh,
I gave
it.
money to the organization.
donate.
I said, I donate.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Yeah.
And I will cheerlead and I will post,
Yeah.
but I can't do it.
Yeah.
I couldn't even be in there for 2 minutes, literally.
See, I'm a steam room sauna person. Like if we're on the road and I see that the local gym has one, sometimes I'll call, like if there's 4 close by gyms, I'll
Yeah.
call and ask which one has one, just because I don't have it here. So
But
I'm
I
like,
think
"Oh,
it
I'll
needs
go
to
do
be
it."
something in your blood that.
I don't
right?
know. Well, so as a kid, I hated the heat. I mean, hated it. So my parents, I was actually concerned when they're like, "You're going to be going down to Florida and you have to live there," and you know, I was just getting the apartment. I was like, "Yeah." They're like, "Yo, you're going to hate it." And I did probably for the first, I don't know, a few weeks, and then something just adjusted. I think now I've had so many surgeries and you know so many bumps and bruises that when I go to the cold, I just feel it. I'm like achy, and I think that's what happened as I got older, and just the warmth like rejuvenates me. I heal
Yeah.
faster. I recover quicker. So
Gotcha.
I love it.
Gotcha.
I mean, at night I want to sleep in the cold. Put the AC way up, but
Oh,
during
okay. I do the same
Yeah,
thing.
but
Yeah.
during the day, oh no,
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, because you were actually in Boston, like
Yeah.
you said early on. Was it okay for you when you were up there? Like, did you like the cold?
Oh, I love it. Well, so I love fall. I love spring, winter with the snow. I like that it's there. Like
It's pretty.
Yeah.
It's so pretty.
Like if
With
that-
shoveling.
Yeah. What we always say, like Jesse and I, my wife, it's just like with the heat, you can escape it to the air conditioning.
Yes.
And then once it's, say at night, it cools down, you don't like have to pay for having a nice day inside. Whereas with the
Right.
snow, if it's snowing out, sure, I could stay warm inside, but eventually I'm going to pay for ignoring the snow because now I have to shovel, I have to remove the ice, especially like when we were living in Milwaukee after Jesse and I's first house that we bought was Milwaukee. And it was just like constant like snow removal, and ice was the worst part. Like there's nothing you can do about it. So it's like, yeah, sure, you can ignore it all day and stay
Yeah.
inside, but eventually
Yeah.
it's going to get you.
Yeah.
Whereas here, it's like you can spend the whole day inside and then just enjoy the night.
Yeah.
You know, so that to me, I don't miss that. Like we'll visit a couple days, like even this weekend. Like sure, we're going to go to Chicago for 3 days. That's plenty of cold. I'll go to Milwaukee
same
Christmas
way.
Eve. I'm like, that's good.
I
I'll get a
lived
couple
in New
days.
York, and I lived there for 16 years. Year 15, you couldn't have moved me. I
Yeah.
was so excited.
Right.
Year 16, I'm in Laguna Beach, January, short sleeve shirt, and I went, wait, winter is optional? What
Yep.
the hell am
You
I
hit a
doing?
breaking point.
Yeah.
When I started doing NXT, it was one of my first road loops, and the ref Bennett, he was up in SmackDown or Raw now. He had said to me, he's like, you know, someone, I forget who, someone gave me the advice that you're going to want, because he was a New Jersey guy, he's like, you're going to want to live someplace that when you get off the plane in your home, that's the warm place. That you're not like going from cold to cold, or from a nice place to cold for home.
Right.
And at the time, I was in Milwaukee, and I was like, I don't know, I'm fine. And then once you start traveling, like every weekend, you're like, heck yeah, that's exactly what you
yeah.
want. You want to get home and just be like, I don't have to worry about snow removal. I don't have to
Yeah.
worry about what I missed while I was gone. I don't have to, like, hurricanes, I guess, here you do have to worry about. But aside from that,
Yeah.
like,
Have you ever had to evacuate?
no, maybe should have a couple times. I mean, and then
Yeah.
like we didn't have damage, so we kind of got lucky or whatever. But like they did a couple times, and I've been here 5 years in Florida, and twice the warnings were so bad that they were like, you probably want to go somewhere, but
What made you stay? I always wonder. People
Well,
that
when
stay.
I was living in the Baldwin Village area, our electric lines or whatever it was, all of our lines, and I don't even know if this is true, but this is what I was told. It used to be a hospital there, so everything was underground. So I just asked the people in the office, and they were like, "We've never, knock on wood, but we've never had a problem."
Okay.
So that made me feel like, oh, okay, if they've never had a problem,
Yeah.
I'm fine. And then when we were here, I feel like Jesse and Willow weren't for something. Maybe they were.
So then you were like, I'll
It was
be
just
okay.
me, exactly.
Yeah.
If we had Willow, I think we would have been like, hey, we'll just get a hotel for a night, couple hours away.
Yeah.
But because they weren't here, I just kind of felt like, well, I mean,
Yeah.
what's the worst that's going to happen is damage, and at least I'm here to repair
Right,
it or
right.
attend to it. You know.
It's a tricky position,
Yeah.
right? To heed the warnings, and then you see when people, like the one in the Keys, the Florida Keys, when people didn't leave,
Yeah.
and the
disaster is a disaster, right? Yeah.
That people that were there and they were stuck, and they were like, "Oh my God, why didn't we leave?"
Like Kevin Owens and I are very good friends, and I remember the one when I was in the Village, because he had at the time it was just me. Jesse was out on work. We didn't have Willow yet, and Kevin had two little ones, and they were like, "Hey, we're gonna drive out towards Canada," because they were gonna go to Canada for something anyways. And I just remember when he decided to leave. First, they were gonna stay, so they bought all the stuff that you would need,
right.
canned goods, everything. And he was like, "I'm just gonna drop some stuff off at your place before I leave, just because you're staying." And I was like, "Okay, cool." I got home that day and had like a countertop, just mounds of things, and I was like, "What the heck were they preparing for?" And they ended up driving like 16 hours out or something, and nothing happened. But it's like one of those things like. I don't blame him. What if? You
What
got two
if?
little ones, and
Right.
he had dogs,
Right.
and so yeah, what if?
I gave him an excuse to go back to Canada too. I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure he didn't. I don't
He
think
was
he
fine.
ever fights going home.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Wow, your journey has been amazing.
Thanks.
But it's also been like, right?
Yeah.
The roller coaster.
I think most are.
Most are.
Yeah.
But this is crazy. As I'm sitting here doing research on you, and I saw that you were in 2005 on SmackDown.
Oh, right.
With this
Okay.
thing with the Undertaker, and I'm like,
right.
I was there.
You were there,
What
yeah,
the hell?
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't remember that.
Yeah.
Like, when you were pretending to be, you were in a script.
I was a 20-year-old lawyer. Figure that out.
Tell me
Yeah.
about that. And
Yeah.
I mean, somebody recently sent me a clip of me doing an interview, backstage interview of the Undertaker, and I looked at it and I went, I don't remember doing that
Right.
interview. So do you remember though?
That one for me is like
Yeah.
vivid. Yeah, I mean, at 20 and sharing the ring with Undertaker, so it was just like cloud nine. But the whole day, it was one of those like right place, right time things. I was training when I first started at Killer Kowalski's, became Chaotic Training Center. So I was training there, and they were like the feeding system. When WWE came to town, if they were in New England, they'd come to us to get any extra talent. And that was going on for years. So it was really a fast track way to WWE at that time, especially at that time where the indies weren't like as hot as they have become.
now,
you know,
yeah.
so it was like getting to WWE, I felt was very systematic. Go to a reputable school,
Yeah.
like, just train hard, have a okay appearance, look, get some 8x10s. It was like they have a resume. It was like very business oriented,
Right.
So I was just taking all the steps, and then they came to town, and of all things, they were like, "Oh, we want people who are under 6 foot tall with darker features, darker hair and stuff," which they always asked at that time. It was like 6'2", 240 or above.
Okay.
So for them to ask for that, our promoter called up 3 of us, and he was like, "Can you guys? It's today. Can you make it?" And I borrowed my brother's suit and headed out, and we ended up all going together. It was like 3 wrestlers and the promoter and maybe like 1 or 2 more office guys.
Yeah.
And it was the picking process was nothing. I believe it was like John Laurinaitis looked at the 3 of us and said, he looks the most like a lawyer, and we'll take him. Didn't know anything about any of
Yeah.
us. I think he said maybe I looked the oldest. I was the youngest, I think. I don't know, but. And then they ended up saying they didn't like my suit, so they went and bought me, did measurements, bought me a suit. But the whole day ended up just becoming, it went from like you're picked in catering around 4 p.m.
Yeah.
to somebody gives you this script that you're going to read.
Right.
And I remember asking the writer, I was like, how do you pronounce a couple of the words? I was like, I had no
Yeah.
idea.
There were legalese.
Yeah,
and
right. I
lawyers.
had no clue what I was saying. And
Right.
But then it went from that to like all of a sudden, and I've said this before, but like Stephanie McMahon came over. That was the first time I met her, and I still to this day have no idea why, but she took me for like a tour.
Oh.
Like a 20-minute, like, I'm just going to show you around and make you comfortable here. I think, come to find out, so my job as the lawyer was to read a statement on behalf of Hassan and Davari.
Right.
And at the time, the terrorist attacks happened. And they were doing some, like, angle on television prior to terrorist attacks that was just a little bit, like, on edge. So I think there was actual, like, network heat.
Yeah.
Of like, whoa, hey, these guys can't be on TV anymore. Because really, I mean, Hassan only had, I think, the one more pay-per-view match, maybe, and he wasn't on the network anymore, something like that. So this statement just had to come off as a sincere apology for like the UPN, I don't know, whatever they want the executives to say, like, yes, this is okay. But it also had to be wrestling because Undertaker's coming out. So it was, I think they were in a weird spot, and maybe Stephanie's way of taking me around was to say, like, should we trust him? Should we get someone else? You know what I mean? Maybe judging, like, is he going to do the job? I don't know. That might not be right. But she showed me around the whole place, and she was just like the nicest person
She's
ever.
a sweetheart.
The nicest. And I actually told her at the PC when I got, to WWE NXT, which is 12 years later, I saw her, and I was like, hey, I've told her the story. I was like, I don't know if you remember this. I was like, but you just, like, being in the ring with Undertaker was awesome. But my takeaway was always how Stephanie treated me. That was my like carry with me for the rest of my career was, hey, this person who just didn't need to treat me good took her time and treated me like an equal. Like there was no like, I'm Stephanie McMahon and you're this extra.
Right.
And she had said to me when I was telling her story, she's like, well, the cool thing is now, she's like, you might not realize it yet, but you're kind of in that position, and it's just going to become more so over the next few years that people are going to come to you. And it's one of them things, anytime, you see extra talents or anything, I try to have that in my head of like, let me introduce myself. Let me try to welcome them because it's so nerve-wracking. Like you're coming into this place and it's just giants and people you've looked up to, and it's like, oh, where do I go? Like, what should I do? And you see them, they're wallflowers, right? And I don't blame them. I was the same way. So yeah, that was my takeaway. But Stephanie was super nice. I did like a read through with the script for the writer 100 times over. The writer was Ed Koski. Who's still around. Still there. And he's the best. And it was just like I had to do a read through for Vince in his office. And I remember that too. I'm outside his office, right? And I'm waiting. Sometimes there's just a line outside the door. I'm just waiting. Like the writer said, stand here, so that's what I'm doing.
Right.
And I forget who came out. I don't know if it was Ted DiBiase. If somebody comes out, and I hear like kind of shouting, and I'm like, oh man. Well, it was Michael Hayes. He comes out and they're shouting, and he kind of looks over to me. He's like, "You next?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "You got no effing chance, kid," and just starts laughing. And I'm like, oh. And he doesn't know what I'm there for. For all he knows, I'm trying out or something. I don't know. And I'm like, this is bonkers. It's like the next 3 minutes feels like an hour. And I'm like, oh, this is the worst. The writer's gone. I'm like, this is terrible. So Ed comes back. We knock on. It's now a good time. And I go in, and right away, the mood just was the best. Yeah, because Vince is standing, and Hunter walks in, and they have a big thing of muscle milk powder, and he's like, hey, like, I'm making a shake. Do you want a shake? Asking Vince. And like, it's so for me, who's just like this like fitness person, I'm like, oh, it's just two dudes making shakes and hanging out. Like, and I don't know if there was tension or not. I didn't feel it. It
humanized them.
It immediately made me just feel like these are just dudes. Like, and I think that is, I say that to a lot of people. That's the trick to me when you're dealing, like, me and Hunter get along great. And it was out the gate. I just kept reminding myself, like, I can't, like, you want to be respectful. It's like, sure, yes, sir, and stuff. But there's also moments where it's like, hey, man, I have a question. Like, it can't always be like, sir, can I ask you? Like, and I treated, to this day, I don't have many interactions with Vince, but I always treat it that way. Where it's just like, sure, I'm respectful and I appreciate that, I'm getting these opportunities, but you have to have
they
that.
notice that too.
I think so.
For sure.
I think they also notice when you're too comfortable. Like, there's a fine line.
Sure.
There's a balance to it.
Yeah.
But that was that, and I don't know. So even that, I think I carried all of that day, just was carried through my career. Because I did the read through with Vince and Hunter's in there, and then we do a trial in the ring with Undertaker.
Yeah.
And Taker's there, Hunter's watching, Vince is watching, like everyone's, and you have the microphones live, so there's no fans, but everybody's listening to you. I'm like, oh, this is wild. You know, and Taker, I remember in the rehearsal when Taker grabbed me, like my natural instinct was, oh, I'm gonna put my hand here at a post, and he just like hey, grab here, I'll put the hand there, you know, and even when we did the thing, like, so this is a weird little side note, but at Chaotic where I was training, we'd always go for dinner, and we'd always call dinner Treats for whatever reason. Big, you want to go to Treats after? We'd go get food, and everybody kind of said to each other, like, would call each other Daddy, but like for no reason. It's just like, hey, Daddy, pass this. Hey, Daddy, what's going on? Hey, Dad.
Yeah.
And Taker picks me up and choke slams me, and he's gonna scoop me for the tombstone. And as he's picking me off the mat, he goes, "Nice and easy, Daddy." And I was like trying not to like laugh to myself, because that was the one story I immediately told them when I came back. I was like, Taker says Daddy too. I was like, can you like, is this a wrestling thing? I don't know. And who knows? I don't know if that's a thing he does. I don't know. But it was like, it was just ridiculous. The whole day was ridiculous, and they were just so nice. So it gave, I mean, you hear different takes and stories, but for me, it was just like, oh wow, like WWE is like, as a kid, WWF was like, I want to be there, and then I had that experience. I'm like, oh, this is so for me.
No, but and then you came back even on Heat. You did a match.
Yeah, I did a
with
few
Kofi
dark
Kingston.
matches. Kofi and I tagged in. That was in a dark with Caden Murdoch, and then I did a thing with Jamie Noble on Velocity, maybe.
Yeah, right.
I had a match with Trevor Murdoch singles, which was I think a dark match. So I had a few.
And you were at Ohio Valley Wrestling.
Yeah,
right?
so between, I mean, I started wrestling around 18 or so, and did the thing with Undertaker. I think I was 20. But that first 2 years was all primarily Chaotic Wrestling, some stuff in the New England area, doing a bunch of WWE. Anytime they came to town, I'd just be there as an extra. And I did a tryout in Deep South, didn't get chosen from the tryout. Was basically told as myself and you, I think you'll know Arch Kincaid. Do you remember that name? Yep. Yeah. So it's him and I went out there, and they basically, their notes to us was, hey, if we could take Arch's personality and charisma and then your technical in-ring ability and combine them, we would sign you. But unfortunately, he has the personality and you have this. And then they passed. So I was 20.
How does that feel, like, to know personality was such a big thing, and that was...
I heard it my whole life.
Really?
So it was just one of them things where, like, my whole life I was shy. I wasn't like, in my wrestling life, I was always, that was kind of one of the things on me. Doesn't have it factor, doesn't have it. That was it. You know, like, it was weird too, because it wasn't questions if I could speak, because right out the gate, and Independence would always give me microphones because I was comfortable doing promos. I was very much of a character back then. I was Thomas Penmanship. It was very like, it was like almost an IRS type thing. So I don't know, but it was a weird thing. I always got told that. It was always, we just don't see it in you. You know, and that carried with me for a long time. So it almost in a weird way didn't bother me, because
it didn't?
No, I remember thinking like, well, I mean, I'm 20 and I'm still on their radar, and like my view very much was, this isn't an if question, this is a when. I'm gonna get signed.
Okay.
Like I'm 100. And I didn't aspire, like a lot of guys were like, oh, I want to go to Japan and Mexico. At that time, I just want to go to WWE. But that ended up being the problem when I finally got signed, because I eventually did a couple more tryouts. I had a thing with Tommy Dreamer that went really well, and then Tommy moved on, and Nova took that spot, Mike Bucci, and then I did a thing with him, and I remember him saying something like, oh, you should cut your hair. I had long hair at the time. And he just happened to be back in town 2 weeks later for a different tryout. So I cut my hair and went to that tryout, and I think that was one of them things where they were like, hey, we tell this kid to do stuff and he does it.
Coachable. That means you're coachable.
That
means a lot.
But so here's the thing, to me, it was like, if you just said, how do you get signed? I felt like I could literally give you a blueprint. I felt like it was I don't want to say the word easy, but it felt easy to get signed. My problem was I had no plan after that. So when I finally got signed and went down to Kentucky OVW, like, I was just lost, because I was like, okay, so I had a plan to get here, But then I felt like, okay, now they saw every hole in my game.
Okay.
Because I had only been wrestling for 2 years and I'd never lived outside of home with my parents. So all of a sudden it was like, I'm moving from Boston, from mom and dad's house. I'm going to Kentucky. I don't really know how to live like on
You
my
haven't
own
grown up yet on your own.
at all. I had no life experience, and it showed hard when I got there. All these dudes coming in from, oh, I have a football background, I have this background, I was an Olympian or whatever, and I'm like, whoa, like they've traveled the world, they've done stuff.
Yeah.
And it was like there was no hiding anymore. I was like, damn it, like I'm exposed hard right now.
Oof.
And I was like, it wasn't like a discipline problem. It was just why would you invest into this kid who I didn't have confidence, you know what I'm saying? Like I get it. Like I got released 6 months later and I got it. I was like, oh yeah, of course. So that's when everything for me, I was like, well, when I left Kentucky and had a pretty bad experience overall, because I was like, I didn't really fit in. I was the kid amongst men and just all of it.
No friends. So
Yeah, I didn't like have enemies by any means, but I just didn't click with people. Like it felt like if you took a kid who was like a freshman in high school and just put him on a college campus.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't fit in here.
Which has got to be a mind thing too. The fact that you've been wanting so badly, WWE, WWE, you finally get there.
Yep.
It does not look the
Wasn't
way you
anything
thought
exactly,
it was
literally.
gonna look.
Yep.
And
I was like,
you're
oh,
like,
I got past the
oh.
front cover, and
My
now there's all
God.
these pages, and I can't read any of these words, and I don't know what I'm looking at. It was awful. It was an awful experience, and it was terrible too. Just the system was different then.
Yeah.
Way different.
Yeah, it is.
How they ran it, how they ran the drills, how the coaches treated the talent. Just there was so many holes in the system that as a kid who I kind of needed to be nurtured at that point. I needed a coach that was gonna give you the pat on the butt and be like,
And they weren't there for that.
at all.
No.
And it's not, nothing on them. It just it wasn't what I needed. But when I got released 6 months later, for me, like the light bulb of like, oh, I want to go to WWE, like that light bulb just turned off, and it was just like, okay, what do I really want to do? Like, because I didn't want to quit, and that was never even a thought. So it was just like, okay, well, what the heck do I want to do? And I had that self-realization moment for a month or two of just asking myself questions and looking in the mirror and all that, and it kind of became like, well, wait, I mean, I really started looking at the people I like the Eddie Guerreros and stuff. I was like, Bret Hart, and I'm like, these are guys who paved their own path and they just went out and did it. So then I started to open my eyes to okay, well, what's out there? And I started looking at Japan and Mexico and Ring of Honor and all that, and just going wait, so maybe I should just focus on getting really good at the craft. And my mindset of getting signed and stuff just went away, and it just became let me just see how good I can get.
Yeah.
Let me be Kevin Kelly always has the whole thing of become undeniable. How do you make it? Become undeniable. There ain't no one who can tell you that you don't have it if you show them every second of every day.
Right.
No, he has it.
Right.
He can cut a promo. He can do this. He can do that. So it just became that for me. It just be my secret weapon has been my work ethic. I don't have I'm not super tall. I'm not super big. I don't have any one thing that I don't pass that airport test of
check.
Yeah.
Check.
Are you
check.
in the airport and you stand out? No, I'm 5'10" and just a dude,
Right.
But I was I know I work really hard. So I was if I just work really hard for 10 years and then 15 and then 20, you know, and it stopped becoming get to this place. It just became get good at this. And then once I started to get better, obviously you make a little bit of money, you start to travel a bit, and it was oh wait, this is cool.
Yeah.
And the more I travel, the better I'm getting, the more opponents, the better I'm getting. And it all just became about getting better. And I just enjoyed it, the process,
How were you able, because here you've got good work ethic, you're good in the ring. They've been telling you though, personality, that you don't have the it when it comes to the personality. How did you work on getting that personality out? Because you now know that is vital.
Yeah.
And you're shy at the same time, which is crazy. I've had now several of you, Seth Rollins, Batista, Stone Cold Steve Austin, all three of you talking about how shy and how introverts, and how wrestling though has helped you so much in that, which is amazing.
Well, early in my career, playing a character was vital. I had to be Thomas Penmanship because I couldn't be Tommaso because he's he's the shy kid. He doesn't want to be out in front of people.
Alter ego.
Yeah,
Built
I
an
had
alter
to.
ego.
I had to be that something. So that really, and that's all it took in the beginning was just like, oh, as long as I can go pretend I'm someone else, then I'm fine. But then eventually I did hit that point of, because I was doing the independents, I was getting better, but I just wasn't catching breaks. So then that was like the second fold of like, it's actually when I met my now wife, Jessie, around that time. And I was in a tough spot of just like, damn it, like, what am I doing? Like, this isn't going well. And she's really the one I would say that helped the whole.
Really?
Yeah, and for sure. I mean, in so many ways too. Like one of her biggest tips early to me, because she was involved in the business, so she did Tough Enough as a contestant. The next season, she became a producer on Tough Enough, and then that landed her a gig with WWE for 3 years as a backstage
she was
producer.
backstage when I was there. Yeah.
Yep, and then Impact for 3 years, and then she got out of the business. So by the time we met, she's out of the business, but she at least,
And it was Samoa Joe who introduced you, is that true?
Yeah, so essentially what happened with that was she was friends with him from Impact, and she was trying hard to pitch, because she's now doing freelance production, she was trying hard to pitch this idea of like following some independent guys around and showing like a different side of the business. So she had asked Joe, hey, who's some people in New England? She was living in Charlestown, close to Boston at the time. Who's some guys in this area that I might want to take a look at? And I was on his list of people.
Okay.
I don't even think I knew Joe at the time, but I was just on he's aware of, what's going on. And I was on his list of people. So that's how she contacted me, and that's how we ended up. Yeah.
Okay, very cool.
But so at this point, I'm doing my thing, but I'm just not successful. We meet, and it became like a big eye opener of like her biggest thing on me was, hey, you're spending a lot of time trying to make people look good. Like, you ever think about, how you're gonna look good yourself? And that became like, I remember fighting it. We would get into like we don't fight at all. Like, I mean, we've been together I don't know how many years now, and like it's hard to even remember 2 arguments. Like, we just don't fight.
That's great.
And like you can't even call them fights, but we just would always butt heads about, like, in my head I was like, this girl's telling me how to wrestle and telling me what to do, like, mind her business, And I get so but I'd keep it like internal, and I'd just be so frustrated, and my mood would get sour. And then finally one day, I think I just had that like, all right, crap, maybe I should just listen and try it. I'll try it.
Right.
And I started to try some stuff, and it was little stuff, because she's good with the camera and good with like watching a backstage vignette and saying, oh, but he should stand here and he should do this, or watching an entrance and being like, oh, if they did this on there. And she has a lot of like strangely good ideas, but it took me a while to open up to like, okay, you don't have to be a wrestler to have good. I mean, Jim Ross isn't a wrestler. You can learn a lot from Jim Ross. You know what I'm saying?
learn a lot
Right,
from Jim Ross.
but it I don't know why it took me a bit to figure. But once I figured it out and started to apply it, and I was like, oh crap, this stuff's working. And I started to kind of catch momentum and steamroll and independence. And she even like how I handled like the social media became a thing, having shirts in 8x10s became a thing. And she was the one who pushed that, because it's just not my thing. But she would push it like, you should probably promote yourself.
Yeah.
And that, I think that's what got me to start to just focus less on just the match and the wrestling, and focus a little bit more on like, okay, how do I present myself? What's the presentation?
Yeah.
And then it evolved to me becoming, Tommaso Ciampa, which is my godmother's last name, and just really just I'd put everything in on like, hey, I'm gonna put all my eggs in my basket.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna pretend I'm this or that.
Yeah.
And that still was like a years and years of figuring out who that person is.
Wow. Yeah.
And but I don't know, somewhere in that, it's like there's no pinpoint of like, this is when it clicked. I know for sure that the end of Ring of Honor is when I started to realize like, oh, you became good at this. But I felt in Ring of Honor I was typecasted, and I couldn't get out of that. And I was like, I wanna, man, and I was asking a lot, hey, can we switch the character a little? Can I have this opponent? Can I be in this storyline? And it just wasn't happening. But I do remember her and I being like, she got it, I got it. And I was like, man, I feel like I'm the only one who knows that I'm on the cusp of something. But no one knows, but I know. And
You're like somebody in the cage going,
I felt it. I could just see it. I was like, I was like, oh, I'm about to break out here. You just gotta give me the ball just a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's when I think it really exploded, because I left Ring of Honor. I did a thing in Progress for a tournament. I started to do this company called AEW in Chicago. and I started using Psycho Killer by Talking Heads as my entrance music.
I love
and
Talking
that
Heads.
became my thing. Like I became like Psycho Killer was the I don't know, pseudo personality.
Right.
And everything just, it was like this 1 year takeoff where I was like, oh crap. It just happened. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, like I know how this guy walks. I know how he talks. I know how he carries himself. I know like how he handles interviews, just everything. And it just like, it was one of them things where you're like, you know how you hear a lot, you're like, oh, it was a 10-year overnight success.
Yeah, you got it.
I felt that. I was
Yeah.
like, oh man, okay, shoot, I think I'm one of those, you know.
Right,
and then it snowballed because obviously NXT happened and
Yeah.
it just snowballed. But yeah, it was like I give so much of the credit to Jesse on developing me from like a kid who wanted to wrestle to a commodity who could become a star for like a company. And it was just, giving the confidence to it and just making me look.
You know what she was,
outside.
and I think this is important. Like you said, JR is not a wrestler, but yet you go, wait, he knows a lot about wrestling. You got to understand. Same thing with me. Like I'm not a wrestler, but I'm the fan who's watching, right? And there's
Ringside.
a lot of time ringside,
Way
night
more
after
matches
night
than
after
any of
night.
us are watching.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I have learned like what works, what doesn't work, what I'm missing. And then sometimes I would look at matches and I noticed that the wrestlers, whether it's female or male, would be in there worried about how good am I going to make this move look.
Right.
And I remember going up to one of them, it was a female, and I remember telling her, don't forget the audience. You're working so much with your opponent, but when she's down or something, make something to the audience. Go, whatever. And she's like, you're right. It's like I've forgotten all about them, right? Mm-hmm. And I was like, we are here and you need to bring us in, and that's how you do it. But I was only able to say that because I've watched matches. And, so I think it's important that we're giving you a different perspective. We're giving you the perspective of us who you're trying to entertain.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
it's the
is
same thing
important.
hearing from a fan who's just a fan, but is like all in.
He's all in.
It's to me, it's like there's no opinion that's invalid because they're all opinions.
Doesn't have to be from a wrestler to a wrestler. It's we're
one
all
of
in
ours
this
was
together.
Todd Sinclair is the senior official in Ring of Honor, and he was at Chaotic when I was coming up. And I actually remember there was this group who really hated when he would give feedback, and there was a few of us who loved getting his feedback.
Yeah.
And I just always thought to myself, like, man, he's doing matches with Joe, Punk, Dragon, or Daniel Bryan, and I'm like, every night he's doing these matches, and I'm never working with these guys. So that I understood to pick his brain. I think just because Jesse was like, my like, it wasn't like a coworker. She's an actual friend and stuff. So it took me a bit there, but yeah, I totally agree. Like you
had to shift that mindset too.
100%.
That the advice had to come from another wrestler.
Yep.
Which was very
or
smart
someone
of you.
like in the business and
Right.
Yep.
Right. So that's very, very smart of you. But Ring of Honor, you mentioned something before we started the interview. I stopped you because I wanted to hear the story here.
Right.
I wanted all the fans to hear the story. I think it's very important. But you said that you put a timetable after Ring of Honor that you would have when you left wrestling. Tell me about that.
Done. So I can't give you a year just because I don't remember off the top of my head. But I'm in Ring of Honor about 4 years, and I was casted as Sicilian Psychopath there. And right from the get-go, the one thing that felt weird was I got signed based on a tryout where Jim Cornette saw me and Delirious, Hunter Johnston, and they really liked my promo. So the match was fine, but the promo is what they were like, oh man, okay. So I got signed, and then I got put in a group called the Embassy, and I had 3 managers, not one, 4 technically, I guess, because it was myself, R.D. Evans, Prince Nana, this guy Ernie Osiris, and Mia Yim. So Mia wasn't a manager; she was like the female wrestler.
Yeah.
But it was just I had a lot of mouthpieces, and I was very confused. For my first 2 years, I wasn't allowed to speak, and I was like, "Whoa, you guys hired me because of my promos? What the heck's going on?" And the matches, I mean, I went 2 years where I bet you if someone had pulled up every match I had in Ring of Honor for 2 years, I probably had like 5 matches versus people contracted to Ring of Honor. It was always extras that they had brought in, and I was doing these like enhancement squash matches, real short things. And I just remember like hitting a point where I was like, man, I'm not getting better here, because like I would beg, I'd be like, oh, let me work with Generico and Chris Hero and Claudio and all, and I just never got to do it. And it was so frustrating. So then finally I did hit a point where I was catching a little momentum, but then I tore an ACL. It's like kind of like story of my career. I keep getting injured, but I tore an ACL.
Oh, I've been through that.
Awful that
Yeah,
rehab.
awful.
Came back from that, really started to pick up momentum. But I just felt like I was like hitting this imaginary ceiling where I was like, man, I don't know. To me, it felt, and I might have been wrong, but I was like, because the psychopath character, I felt like it was too distant from me, and it wasn't like, I couldn't humanize it enough for that fan base. Like the Ring of Honor fan base is so like, they're so real and so true. It's very like, it's an NXT fan base, it's the same fan base. It's like, it's just, you just can't feed them crap. You gotta be raw with them. If you're not raw with them, they'll see through it and they're not gonna buy in. And that's where I felt like I was like, oh man, they're not buying in. And I kept asking for different things, like, can we switch this? Can we get rid of the nickname? Can we? And I know it's like little stuff, but it just, to me, it was like, these are meaningful, purposeful things we need to do. And finally, we hit a point where I was gonna have a main event title match for a pay-per-view, which I'd never done for them. It was gonna be me and Jay Briscoe. And we had this one trial run kind of in England, and it went incredibly well, and the feedback was awesome. And then all of a sudden, over the next month or two, we're getting ready for the Las Vegas pay-per-view, and it switched to a four-way. And the reason it switched to a four-way is because people in the office didn't have faith that I could sell a pay-per-view. And it was like disheartening.
That's frustrating.
Yeah, it was one of those, especially because the match went so well, and me and Jay Briscoe play off each other well. Like I felt like I was like, oh, they could run 6 months with us because he can talk and I can talk, and we're both like kind of. I mean, we just play the prototypical like guy. This is a dude, and he's coming to fight. Like this isn't and there's nothing wrong with the MMA style or whatever, but we both played that like, man, he'll fight you at a bar, he'll fight you on the street, he'll fight you in a ring, he'll fight you anywhere. It just felt like we just meshed. And all of a sudden it became this four-way, and then I find out why it becomes a four-way, and then I was like, oh, that's rough. And my contract's coming up, and we're negotiating, and at this time, Ring of Honor just started giving out, we were on Sinclair TV, and they just started giving out like deals where you could make a living and be exclusive, and you had a salary and all that.
Okay.
So of course I was like, oh crap, this is great. Because I'm working at a gym at the time, doing really well, but I'm thinking, oh, this might be the break in wrestling where I don't have to have a job anymore.
Yeah.
And it becomes like the offer that I got was just awful. I mean, it was an extremely low downside salary. Not exclusive. I couldn't do television anywhere. I couldn't work for like WWE or Impact. But I could take independent bookings. But the number was something that like I'd have to keep doing my job and all that. And I just remember going to the negotiation with them and just saying like, listen, I'll sign 5 years. I'll sign 10 years. I'll make my career right here in Ring of Honor. If you guys show me that you're looking to invest in me the way I'll invest in you. And the conversation, I thought like it was going well, and then it just took this real hard turn. And then there was this one moment where I remember talking with the owner at the time, still the owner, I guess, Joe Koff, and it was just the two of us. It was in person. It was the first time we really had the in-person negotiator. And I told him, like, this is how I feel. And he was like, listen, you're not going to get, no one's going to offer you more than $20,000. He's like, that's like,
oh my Lord.
And I just remember just freezing and just going, oh. I was like, oh, shoot. I was like, I didn't realize, okay. I didn't realize this is, like, you thought that of me. Right. I was like, and I felt like it was like this demeanor, like this, like, it was like light bulb friendly, relaxed to me. I was like, oh, hey, we don't have to do this anymore. My contract's coming up and I'm good. I'm going to go somewhere else and find out if you're right or not. And he's immediately, no, I didn't mean it. Like, it's cool. It's like, no, I'm not mad at you. I was like, I don't even care. I was like, I think I cared until that was said. I was like, I don't care anymore. I was like, it's cool. I was like, I just didn't understand that was, you guys just viewed me as like, my ceiling was not even above that mid card. So I was like, it's fine. And I went to Hunter that day because he was, we were on the road somewhere, Delirious. And I just said, oh, hey, just so you know, I discussed stuff with Joe, and I'm wrapped up. I'll finish my dates. I think WrestleMania weekend, wherever, was coming up. And I was like, that would be my last one, and I'm done. And when that was like official and I went home, I just remember thinking, crap, I probably want to keep the narrative in my control. And I actually looked up Samoa Joe. I forget where he left. I think he left Impact not long before that, 6 months to a year before that. And I backtracked his tweets to see what he had said when he left. And I almost verbatim copied it because I always viewed him as a very good professional, how he carried himself. And it was just one of those like, hey, I just want to announce to everybody that on such and such date, I'm going to be parting ways with Ring of Honor. I want to thank the staff, this. And that was it. And I'm so happy I did it because they ended up being forced almost into giving me like a send-off in the sense just that at least the fans knew. And they were just going to have me, and I still did it, but I was going to have a match with Jay Lethal, beat up the official afterwards, and then be like thrown out of the company. And it would have really muddled if it was a storyline or real. So I was like, thank God I put that out, because I put it out a month before that. So there was no question marks. And then everyone understood, oh, they're doing this to give an on-screen reason why he's gone. And my final match was with Jay Lethal, and he's one of my favorite people to wrestle. It was great. I loved it. I got to do the official thing with Todd Sinclair, as far as he was the guy that I beat up when I got thrown out and all that. But it was just that moment of just like, oh crap. Like when I left there, that's what I meant when I was like, I felt like I was on the cusp. I was like, when I left there, it was like, okay, what's the next step? And my wife and I were talking, and that gym that I was working at was doing so well, and I was the manager at it, and I was making good money, getting monthly bonuses and stuff. And it was just one of those, we wanted to start a family soon and getting married, buy a house, the whole thing. I was like, hey, so I we gotta think now for us and the future and everything. And I was like, if I leave this job and go all in on wrestling, then we're going to be in a spot where it's like, if I don't make wrestling, I left a really good job, and like crap. I was like, or if I leave wrestling and go all in the job, like, is this something we want to do? And we had a long discussion, like many, and we finally hit the point where I was like, okay, listen, let's timestamp this, like one more year of this, balancing the two, because it was exhausting.
I bet.
I was opening that gym, getting up at 4 a.m., living in Boston, so snow and all that crap. 4 a.m., shoveling cars off, getting to work. Sometimes I'd work the 5 to 12 shift. I'd have like a 3-hour break. I'd work 3 to 8:30 because I was trying to crunch my hours in my Monday through Thursday as best as I could. Sometimes even working a morning Friday to fly to a show. Then doing shows Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Got it.
Getting back, late Sunday night or sometimes Monday morning going straight to work. It was just exhausting. So I was like, I think I could do this for like another year. And I was like, if nothing breaks in a year, then something's got to change. So we made that agreement, and I think so. So I leave them Mania time, so April, and I catch a break with Progress Wrestling, who's going to do this tournament in May, and they bring me over for it, and they give me Zack Sabre Jr. And the match, was one of those where so you walked away from it, and you were like, whoa, something just happened, and it did, because I started getting booked overseas consistently between Progress and others that saw the match and heard about the match. And while that's happening, AAW brings me into Chicago, and the discussion I had with them was simple, the same as the Progress. I was like, listen, just don't put me in a character storyline, and please just give me a string of good opponents. The guys that I wanted to wrestle in Ring of Honor that I wasn't able to. And AAW brings me it was like Davey Richards and Michael Elgin and Johnny Gargano was our first time wrestling, I think, or second time wrestling, first time in the States. But it was just a string of Tommy and Aleister Black. And they're both happening at the same time. So I'm in Progress and in England and overseas. I'm taking off. Chicago, I'm taking off. And it's so fast that in a matter of like the first tour's in May, it goes so well. I have another tour, I think, coming in like July maybe. And I instantly get put in this position of like, oh, I can't keep my job if I'm going to keep doing these tours. But the money's so good on the tours and merch and everything's going so well that it's like I went from April thinking, okay, we got this 1 year timeline, to May, June, July, leaving my job, full in on wrestling. Like, okay, we kept to the timeline. We're like, we still got 1 year that this has to be like something we can live off of. And I decided to finally give a call to, so my wife is best friends with a former writer with WWE, Brian Gerwitz, who works with the Rocks production company.
Yeah, I love Brian.
And, he's a great guy. And I've just buzzed him and said, hey, I'm getting close to the end of this year. And because I think at this time it's like the next
WrestleMania's coming around.
It's on the brink. And I'm like, I wouldn't mind having one more shot at them, one more tryout. Do you think, and I've never asked for a favor. I was like, do you think you could ask somebody if they're interested in giving me a tryout? Next thing I know, I get a tryout set up for like June. So obviously it's a little after that year, but I'm like, okay, let me ride this and see what happens at the tryout. And that tryout becomes a no.
Oh, really?
Yep. It was myself, Johnny, Gargano, both got no's. Other people were at that tryout. Wow. Drew Gulak was at it.
How did that feel after all?
It was, so I was at this point, it was interesting because I get the no and it felt like it was going to be a yes. Like I was like, oh man, I hit a home run at this tryout. And when we got the no, it just felt like one of those things where you're like, to like walk away, to be like, okay, we're done, because I was doing well. I was making more money than I'd ever made on wrestling and physically felt pretty good and stuff. It was just this point where I don't know, like I felt like I had to linger a little, just because the no, it wasn't one of those hard no's. It was one of those no's where it was like, hey, Johnny, I got the same email. I was like, you guys did really well, and if an opportunity presents itself, you're going to be called. It's just, we're looking for the thing. And Regal followed up with us shortly after, because he was really pulling for us with the, I'm trying to find something for you. Yeah. So it just made us feel like, all right, let's hang on a little bit on this, and see, because it's not like Jesse and I were like in a tough spot. We were doing okay, and it just happened so fast after that.
How quickly between the no and the
really fast? I mean, it didn't feel super fast, but I think the tryout was June, the no was July, and Regal calls us in August to say there's a Dusty Classic coming up.
Okay.
I'm gonna you guys are gonna have a tag match. It might be nothing, but are you interested? And we're like, well, I mean, yeah, we're interested.
Good for you.
And then
Good for you. And that was it.
It was, and it wasn't supposed to be it for sure. I mean, we did that first match, and we got a roll-up shock win, and the second one, we thought we were coming into, and we did. We came in just to put over Corbin and Rhino, and like as enhancement, kinda.
Right.
But the crowd helped us, and just our everything, our work ethic, our appearance, how we handled ourselves.
Why NXT means so much to you?
And yeah, it's like, I mean, and because of Hunter, like NXT's Hunter, obviously not ROH's, but yeah, because of the combo, like Hunter has just become like I don't know what the term would be.
Mentor?
But yeah, for sure. But not even just in wrestling, like just in life in a sense, because when Johnny and I got that opportunity, we did a couple matches, and we're doing the tag thing, but we can tell like this isn't. They don't have like a vision for us. This isn't going anywhere. We weren't the two dudes coming in and debuting at TakeOver, having the big entrance or any of that. So we were like at a point where we're like, damn it, like what do we do? Like how do we get over to the point where they see in us that they should sign us and like they should use us? And Hunter just was accessible, in the sense of like, kind of like I talked earlier about when I met him and Vince, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to try to build a relationship. He wasn't like, it wasn't intimidating seeing him where you felt like you couldn't speak to him. So we were trying to build that relationship. And then the Cruiserweight Classic came about, and I wasn't going to be in it, but Johnny was going to be in it.
Yeah.
And that's when I had my first like talk with Hunter, where I just had said to him like, hey, what if you put me in the Cruiserweight Classic? And that first round is a lot of throwaway matches. Yeah. And what if you just put me versus Johnny, and I'll just put him over? But at least you have a really good match in the first round. And that became like my initial thing with Hunter of, we hit a home run, and instantly you hit a home run for someone, you earn a little trust. And it just became this thing. And it just, the whole process with Johnny of us trying to get signed, I mean, we hit so many roadblocks. I don't know if when you talked with him, if you guys discussed it, but it was bonkers. Like one of the roadblocks. So they hit a point where they're going to sign us to not even like a full deal, like this weird makeshift deal. And they find out about a podcast I did with Colt Cabana where I talk about depression, and it becomes this like, oh wait, we gotta
He might not be stable.
we gotta have PR talk and all this stuff. And I remember it's just waiting period of all this communication. Finally, I just go to Hunter and I'm like, hey man, did anyone talk to you yet? He's like, about what? I'm like, about a podcast I did about depression like years ago. And he's like, yeah, I heard about it, but I guess I'm supposed to have a sit down. I said, can we just talk? And me and him just talk it out. And I'm like, this is where I'm at right now. I'm married and yada, yada. And it is what it is.
Yeah.
So it's like that now builds our relationship, which then, okay, that roadblock's done. Johnny and I are finally going to get signed to another thing.
Yeah.
Same contract, that weird makeshift thing. They send us to medical. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Find out that I had a torn labrum in my shoulder. Had no idea. Like I've been wrestling God knows how long with it. And it's like, whoa. So that's a halt. Normally the way they handle it is go get fixed, come back, we'll do a tryout. Again, I just went straight to Hunter. I was like, hey, did anyone Iggy you? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, all right, so I feel fine. I was like, what do you want me to do? I was like, if you tell me to go get surgery, I'm not doing it. I'm going to keep wrestling.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I was doing so well. And now that I have the NXT exposure, I'm doing really well.
Right.
Like, great. And I'm just like, I'm not going to...
Can you rehab it?
I'm fine. I don't even know what's there. I'm training every day. I have no symptoms. So I'm just like, I'm not going to fix it. So if you guys tell me to fix it and come back in 6 months, we're just clearly... I mean, we're done. Yeah, and like in the most amicable way possible. But I'm like, it just is what it is. He's like, well, I mean, he goes, how terrible of a person am I? If I've been using you for a year, this might have happened on our show for all we know. I can't just tell you to go fix it. And he's like, so we have a discussion. He has a discussion with whoever, and it ends up becoming like, hey, so if you are willing, instead of this makeshift contract, if you're willing to come to Florida and have a full-time deal, then when the time comes that you tell us you got to take care of your shoulder, we'll take care of it. But
what a blessing.
You got to come to Florida.
Right, that's blessing.
Like, honest to God, to this day, Jesse and I, when we talk about it, like, how silly is this? Like,
have you ever had a surgery on that?
Yeah.
Oh, you did eventually?
With WWE. Yeah.
Okay, eventually.
When I tore my other ACL.
Okay.
That's the only reason. But yeah, it was one of the things I was like, wait, so you're telling me you're going to pay for my surgery, pay for my rehab, pay me while I'm rehabbing, but I have to sign a contract that promises me you're going to... I was like...
Done.
But poor Johnny, who loves Cleveland, gets packaged with me, and they're like, "Hey Johnny, so if we're bringing him on, can you come with him?" And now Johnny's like, "Oh, I don't want to leave Cleveland." Of course he's excited for it, but he's just like, "Damn it, man!" He's like, "We already had this." So we both moved together, and we were like literally living together and the whole thing. But because of that whole process of like. Hunter basically coming to the rescue 3 times where a contract was legitimately like presented to me and then taken away. And Hunter just being the guy who constantly was believing. Yeah, that was 100%. It was like, I say it a lot to people because I do seminars and camps and whatever. I'm just like, I just got really lucky that everybody in their career ends up finding, not everybody, if you're lucky and fortunate, you find this promoter who buys in on you and gives you these options. Like for Johnny, he had Gabe Sapolsky, who bought in, gave him a lot of opportunities in Dragon Gate USA and Evolve, and all these great opponents, and it helped that confidence being instilled in Johnny, turned him into this insane performer. Right. So I go all these years on independence and I don't have them. And I just tell everyone that I just happen to get really lucky that the dude who decided to buy in on me happened to be the dude who's also like in the position that Hunter's in with NXT and WWE in general. So,
but I want you also to know, this wasn't just luck.
No.
Because
I mean,
you did the work that he saw.
The preparation was there for sure.
Yeah.
But just how it unfolded, and it's so, now that I look back on it, it's crazy because for so many years, I was just like, man, like I looked at all these careers, whether it was Piper or Macho Man or just on the independents, like a Young Bucks or a Colt Cabana. I just looked at all these people, CM Punk, that were like, man, they have all their different niche stories and how their careers went. And I'm like, what the hell is my career going to be? And now that I'm where I'm at 15 years later, I'm like I love my story. Like I love it. I love all the dips. I love all the no's. I love all that you don't have the it, you don't have charisma.
Yes.
I love Ring of Honor telling me you're not worth more than $20,000.
Yes.
Like, I genuinely love it. I'm like,
I love that you're sharing this.
Yeah, because I don't share any of it in the sense of like, got you, told you, or screw you. No, I don't feel that way. Like I genuinely, no joke with Ring of Honor or Delirious Hunter. I texted him sometime after, probably when Johnny and I won the tag titles, we were doing very good at NXT, and I texted him and I just said, hey man, I just want you to know, like I just thank you for all the opportunities that you gave me, because going through hardships there, like, prepared me so much for here,
Right.
and for getting things to not go my way.
Right.
Getting to know, or having, a pitch a story, but it gets shut down.
Yeah.
It just, having all that in Ring of Honor just prepared me to be like, how am I going to handle myself as a businessman? How am I going to handle myself outside of that 10 minutes I'm in the ring and all those other hours of the day? And how do I do it so that I'm representing my brand and represent myself,
Right.
because I made some mistakes in Ring of Honor. I didn't always take the high road. Sometimes I'd get grumpy or get mad. So I sent it to him. I was like, I just want to thank you, man, for just like letting me make mistakes, letting me feel, because you gave me a platform to feel. If nothing else, you gave me a platform to feel and go, I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to pigeonhole myself in this corner again. I'm not going to let myself be him again. So like, I don't have any resentment towards any of it, or any of the I just don't. I just feel like, shoot, that is legitimately why now I can have an ACL surgery, 2 shoulder surgeries, and come back at the pinnacle of my career, and then ride it for a year, and then go find out I need neck surgery and not have a beat of like, woe is me. It's just, I took it in stride. It was
Silver
like,
lining and everything.
yeah, and it's just like, it could be worse. Like,
Yeah.
all that crap could have happened when I had no contract.
Right.
And I'm sitting there
Right.
with all these medical bills.
This is also why you and Johnny are such NXT guys. Like,
yeah,
you are.
that's what
He
made
said
us
it.
the way we are.
You are. And
Like,
he
I've said
lives and breathes
forever,
it.
I was like, listen, like, I've fought the call up, like fought it hard. Like, I remember Sean, because he was our coach at the PC for quite some time. He still helps out tons.
Yeah.
But it was.
You're talking about Shawn Michaels?
Yeah. Sorry, it was the time where myself, Johnny, Alistair, and Ricochet were doing some stuff. Main roster was uncertain, are they called up or they not, whatever.
Yep.
And I just remember Sean like laughing at Johnny. And he's like, I've never experienced this in my life, where 2 guys are like, keep your money. I don't want it. Like, keep, because like anybody gets called up.
You really don't want to go to Raw or SmackDown right now.
I won't. Like, I mean, I'm not kidding, to the extent of I've communicated this, where I was, and now it's different. So before, I just didn't want to, because like, I really believed in NXT and wanted to ride it. I want to see how far we could take it. Now it's hit a whole different level of, there is that, but I have a little one at home, and my schedule is better in NXT than it would be on the road. And I had neck surgery, and I'm not freaking stupid. Like, I get, my window is smaller than it was, and my bump card is ticking, and I just look at it like, if I'm doing 200 plus dates a year on the road with Raw or SmackDown, or I'm doing a manageable load of 30 to 50 matches with NXT.
Yeah.
Okay, so I could do 4 years of that in the time that I do 1 year in Raw and SmackDown.
Okay.
So how long can my career and portfolio grow here as opposed to going there? So now it's become a thing where I've legitimately vocalized to them, like, if I have to go to Raw or SmackDown, then I'm going to retire, and I would love to produce or coach or be a part of it. But there's no way I'm taking on that load and going, yeah, you know what, I'll just have a 6-month run and then call it quits. I just won't do it. It's not worth it to me. It's not worth it to my family, Like, that's like a decision.
I love that you are listening to your body.
Have to.
You're listening with your family. You're balancing your life. You've really looked at it, and it's not ego.
No,
It's not any of this. I love this.
It just happens that I do love where I'm at.
Yeah.
And I mean, shoot, and you were at TV yesterday.
Yeah, it's so exciting.
My TV routine
Yeah.
legitimately is I wake up at home, I do my morning routine with our daughter. It's a great time. We have to be there, I have to leave here about noon to get to television. And typically, not every time, but most of the time, my wife and Willow will come, even if it's just for an hour, and say
Yeah.
hi to everybody and stuff. It gets Willow out of the house, gives her some energy release,
Right.
And when I think of that, I'm like, this is my life right now. Like, it's how on earth do you
It's balanced.
trade that?
No, it's balanced.
How do you do it?
Yeah.
I couldn't even
and
fathom
you were
it.
here to watch her take her first steps.
Everything.
That's
Everything. Because the next
amazing.
surgery happened, she was 6 months old.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, her first night in her crib, her first steps, her first foods, like every
Yeah.
first you could possibly think of, I didn't miss one thing.
Yeah.
And now that our schedule is what it is, yeah.
That is priceless.
Yeah, it's perfect stuff.
Okay, so I want to ask you this because I know that you are on a time constraint, so I want to be careful with that and respectful of it. But you touched on it earlier, and I think it's important to to really talk about this, to know where you were to where you are now, because there are a lot of people that suffer with mental health, a lot. And more that I do this show, I realize superstars, all of us, like there is something. I suffered from bulimia, you know.
Everybody.
There is something that people suffer with. You talk about how you suffered with depression.
Right.
And you even tried to commit suicide?
I did, yeah.
Okay. Can you talk to us where you were during that time? Like what was going on? How old were you? Were you wrestling yet?
Oh, yeah. It was after, so I was in OVW at 21, got released, and it was somewhere in that, I would guess I was 22.
So
That's
this
what I
is
would guess.
after you finally get signed.
So I go to OVW, have that rough experience of just being like, oh, I don't have life experience and all that.
Yeah.
When I get released, I come back to New England, and I'm just in this halt of like trying to figure it out. So this is before I meet Jesse. I'm at a halt. I'm trying to figure out like what the heck I'm doing, and I'm working at a Fridays as a server, and wrestling's not going all that great. I also had a banged up knee that like it wasn't bad, but I had to get like a scope on. So I'm just like physically not feeling the best, the whole thing. And when I was at Fridays, when I was a kid in high school, I had drank a couple times. Like I was one of the, like I wasn't a partier. I didn't get into anything. And somewhere during that stretch of serving and stuff, I started getting into pills, and I have no idea. I don't even know what I was taking. And at the time, I definitely wouldn't have said I had a problem, because it was one of those things where like a couple other coworkers would be taking something. Oh, just take it. It'll get you through this miserable shift, you know. And so I take a couple things. Then all of a sudden, like I notice, oh, there's these few people that might come in, you know, as guests who tend to also have stuff. And it just got from one of those like, oh, I'll take a couple when someone gives them to me or whatever, to like I will seek them out, till like I hit a point where I would like I would never name him. I just remember this one older gentleman that would come to our bar all the time, where he definitely had a lot of prescriptions given to him for various things, and I would just take a handful of, not knowing at all what I was, and I would just boom, handful, sip of water, keep serving. Another, like, so and this probably won't show well on camera, but there's a scar right there that you can see.
I see
So
it.
just to give you where I was at, so I'm serving tables, and I would be on so many weird pills that this came from them handing me plates, you know?
Yeah.
So somebody puts one of those sizzling fajita, the wood
Yeah.
one. So I have a napkin on, puts it on, and I'm walking and just handing stuff off, and I'm so out of it that this thing is burning through the napkin on my arm, and I have no clue. I'm just like, whatever. And then I take the napkin off, and it's like a big bubble blister, like completely burnt through, and didn't even feel it. Like, so, but it was just my norm. Like, so I'm just at that's where I'm at as far as like what's wrong. And it's just a combo of just being like it's like, oh, I was 21, I had my dream job, I lost my dream job, and knowing like it was on me that I lost it. It wasn't like, oh, that person set me up. It was on me. I messed up, you know. And then coming back and just it wasn't picking up the way it should have, or I wanted it to, and
you'd always seen your goal to be this. So all of a sudden,
so
it's
the
like,
whole goal.
well, who the hell am I?
Yeah. So this is before I hit the realization of, let me just see how good I can get at this. This is how I get to that point.
Yeah.
Like I leave there, I come home. I mean, my brother knew it, my family knew it. Like they're like, man, he's just not the person who left here 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, even. Like I lost a lot of myself, you know. And I'm just in a bad place. And I remember like hitting this, like I have bad thoughts, but I wouldn't like act on them or anything. And I do remember a time where, so my attempted suicide was reversing the exhaust in the car.
Oh, okay. Like in the garage.
Yes, then there's another way to do it, which I would never say just because you don't want to give that up.
Right.
But yeah, and the worst part to this day for me about it, I think, is so my sister had an ex-boyfriend who, years after they broke up, committed suicide, and that is how he did it. So one of the
learned from that.
Yes, I knew it was possible from that. And it's one of the, I mean, to this day, it eats at me in a different way. It doesn't eat at me in a way where like, I'm really good at the past is the past. I live in the moment. Yeah. But it's just one of the things where I'm like, God damn, like I can't fathom my sister then hearing about, like, I can't even fathom what went through her mind. You know what I mean? But that's how I attempted it. And basically, like I know I was thinking about it, and then I just hit this point where I just feel like if you ask me about that 1 year stretch of my life, I have the faintest memories of it.
Well, because you were under so many pills.
Right. And it's one of them things where I'm like, but it's bizarre how elapsed that time is. It was as if I wasn't even on Earth for it. Like I just have no, not even just that year, but that year trickling extra time. I have no recollection, and I still think to this day it's affected my memory just in general. Because like, man, one of my buddies from high school and I will talk sometimes and be reminiscing, and there's people I just don't remember at all that I should, and there's a lot. But it was that stretch of time serving tables and being miserable and wrestling not going the way it should and just being down on life. And then the attempted thing, it was one of those, even after it happened, for a while I reasoned with myself, oh, it was a cry for help. But realistically, I mean, I was sitting in the car doing the reverse exhaust thing. The reason it didn't work is because I was in this like weird back parking lot area of this mall, and it was like, say, 2-3 a.m. And somebody who was off shift, who was done, the mall security, for God knows what reason, decided to do one more circle lap and saw this car and called the cops. And when the cops show up, I'm like virtually passed out. So that was because I remember I was doing some of the cry for help texts, with my brother and an ex-girlfriend, and then those stopped because I was like, I do remember, like, I guess I don't know if some of this is that I remember or just being told, by the cops after. But when they came, my phone was shut off, and I was like not in it, and they like knocked on the window and they got the door open, and once the oxygen started to circulate again, obviously I start to come to, and end up going to get help. My parents show up. I end up going to this clinic, this hospital, where I stay for a little while, and then it's just like that process after that. It's all a blur. I don't know how long it was, months, days, weeks, whatever it was. Well, I know the hospital stay was like a week or so, but I just remember hitting this point where I finally had some time at home where I was clean, I was off everything, and I just had this like, well, what do I want to do with my life? Do I want to wrestle? Do I not want to wrestle? And my big decision, and God bless my parents for saying okay, but my big decision before I got signed to Kentucky, I was about to move to Missouri to train at Harley's just for 6 months, just wanted something new. And I wanted to get that life experience, ironically, that I didn't have. And I just remember hitting a point where I was like, well, that's what you were going to do. At 20 years old, you were going to go to Missouri, and you were going to try to learn how to wrestle and get better, and maybe go to Japan and do this stuff. So do it. Do it for 6 months, and if you love it, great. And if you hate it, at least you know. At least you did it. But to convince my parents that, hey, let your son,
who just
did this not long ago, and bless them, they did. Everyone just did. Everyone just went with it. And I went to Missouri, and it was the beginning of like just everything.
The healing.
Yeah, healing. A cleansing process of just and don't get me wrong, things did not go great. And it's not like, I had this crappy little studio apartment, and Eldon, Missouri is in the middle of nowhere, so it was just, but it gave me time to just be alone and go train and meet new people and be forced into the environment basically that I was forced into in Kentucky, but learn how to adapt better. And Harley was a great mentor to me. He was like, he just took me under his wing quite a bit of like, Harley's not the I love you type, but he was very much, he cared and like showed that he cared. And I mean, my dad is awesome, so it's not like it was a father figure I was missing. It was just, I guess it was just a person in the business who I respected, who showed, he's the first one who showed faith in me. Like in that, I needed that so much at that point in my life, and that helped. And it was, I don't know, it was one of those things where like, I'm doing this, and I remember coming back 6 months later to New England, and just feeling like, oh, okay, like that's behind me. Like I was completely clean. I'm like, I'm off all that. Like, and then Jesse and I met not long after that.
Okay.
And then it just became a trickle
wow.
effect. But yeah, it was a weird stretch where I can't say one thing triggered it. It's just you're taking a couple things.
I can understand the fact that you had this goal.
Yeah.
You met your goal.
Yep.
It didn't go the way you thought. Now you're feeling like a loser.
Just didn't know what to do.
You didn't know what to do. You're lost.
And serving
Then
tables
you've got-
doesn't help because I didn't.
Right.
That's not
You're
going
like,
anywhere for me.
This is what I've ended up to now.
Yep.
Like,
Wrestling's
this is-
not going
right?
well.
The pills are now
That's what did it, yeah.
exacerbating everything, right? So I can totally see.
Yeah.
But if there's, you know that there's people out there that are in your position
Yeah.
for whatever got them there,
Right.
That are maybe listening to this, watching this, that have had thoughts of
Yeah.
taking their life, what would you say to them?
You know, so I briefly shared some of this on Colt Cabana's podcast years ago, and Seamus and I just didn't touch on the suicide attempt, but touch on depression when I did his Celtic Warrior workout. And I said it then, and you have a different audience, a larger audience to some effect too. I've left my Instagram and Twitter DMs open my whole career, knowing that's why. But you know, it was just one of those things where I was like, I know some people know my story, and if anyone reaches out, they reach out, and if they don't, they don't. It happens that, I mean, I get, like, I would say upwards of 20 messages weekly from people. So it's not like it's just a couple people that deal with this. It's so common. And they're all very different.
Right.
Whether it's because of a surgery, or it's because of a family event, or it's because they lost a job. There's just gazillions of reasons, and I see them all. And I'm by no means a therapist, and it's not even something that I try. I just think that it helps when you have someone who can relate or who can listen and not pass judgment. And I don't know that there was one trick that worked for me. I think it was a collection of tricks, but like realizing I had an issue was obviously like a big step, and then realizing like I have to fix it, but I'm in control of it's only me. It's only on me to fix this thing.
Yeah.
Like taking ownership of it was big. But over the years, I think the thing I've learned now, like hindsight looking back, because that was like 2008, I would say. So over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It's like it's not like you just beat depression. It's not like one day you wake up and you're like, I win.
Yeah, because right now nobody could think that you even would suffer depression. They're looking at your career at NXT. It's great. It's wonderful. But
I think once you have it, like I don't know if it's a chemical imbalance or something. I think it's for me. I view it as like this is a lifelong thing. Like I never wake up one day not mindful of like, hey, it's on you to make sure that you check off all the boxes. So like, and a variety of things help. Like exercise is big for me. That's a huge one that helps. Like whether it's cardio or running or lifting weights, that is a release for me. But like I've tried meditation, and there's an app called Calm that I always recommend to people. Like 7 days of Calm, 21 days. That I actually got really into after neck surgery, because that was a different version of depression, So it's not like that's what I mean. It's not like even where I'm at now. Like I'm very optimistic. I'm very everything on the surface is exactly what I wanted life to ever be. Like a home, my wife, my dogs, my baby girl, like
WWE.
the career for real. But that just doesn't mean that you have some weird body armor on that makes you numb to it all. You know what I mean? I'm still aware, and it could be anything that triggers it. Like, oh man, like you hear another shooting, you hear about dogs being abused, you hear about anything that could just trigger an emotion in you that you're just like, I don't know, like the neck surgery thing for me on a personal level was tough. My wife and I going through in vitro and having miscarriages was tough. And it just always was like,
life is hard.
It's so hard to be a human being.
Life is hard.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's just like, I think it's just, now for me, it's being mindful of just like, hey, this is on you to set this example for the little one. And I want her to just it's not that my parents did anything wrong, that I faced these things. I want to do everything I can, just like they did everything they can, to like see it for her and help her with it and to just be a good role model for her. Like I don't. It's a different. It takes on a different meaning.
Yeah.
So I just I just do everything I can. Like there's a book called Power of Now. I don't know if you ever heard of that. That's a great book. That got me like through some tough times.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like don't look for one simple solution.
Yeah. I love everything that you've
Yeah,
said. It's given several.
Yeah,
and your DMs too, if anybody wants to reach out.
And like talking to like obviously like I talked to a professional when I was at the worst point, and she was a blessing. She was very helpful. Talking to a family friend, talking to literally just figuring out anything that provides you that sense of relief. A dog, anything.
I use
can
the
do
app.
it.
There's so simple right now. I use the app BetterHelp. And it literally gets you a therapist that you can chat, you can email, you can call, you can FaceTime, so you don't have to go to the office, but you can have a connection with a therapist full time. Yep. And I was like, man, this is so...
Honestly, sometimes just writing stuff.
Again, life is hard, and you've got to like talk it out. Yep. You can't
I can't tell you how many times
up.
I get a DM from someone, and it's lengthy, and then, it might be 3 days later, it might be a week later, and that person will be writing back to me, and it's just I'm like, man, I read back what I wrote you, and oof, I must have had a bad day. I must have been in a bad place, so sometimes it's just that. It's just I just gotta release this bad energy,
right?
And like, I know for me that helps me a lot when I'm stressed with wrestling stuff. For me, a lot of times what I'll have to do is like I have to write out whatever these thoughts are, because then I feel like I can say, all right, now I can go to sleep. And these aren't going to go anywhere. I'm going to come back, and they're here.
Great.
It's one of my mind. Yes, it's one of my biggest success. I don't know if there's science to this. I don't. But it feels like if I don't do that, then it's like I'm keeping myself up all night because I'm like, I don't want to forget this thought.
Right.
Even if it's a bad thought.
Right.
Like it's almost like I'm torturing myself, you know. So it's like I'm just going to write out this crap and just
why
freelance
they say journaling
it. Right.
So important.
Just like let it go free, and then at least hey, if I want to visit this, I can come back. Because like that was the big Power of Now is like really was a life changer for me, just in the sense that like, so we all have constant internal dialogue, right? But I don't know that we're all aware that we control that. And that like we have the on and off switch, and we control if it's a positive or negative. Right. And I definitely was not aware of that. I didn't get it. I just thought like, am I the crazy one who has this constant voice in my head?
I think they say over 6,000 thoughts a day.
It's bonkers. But the key is, if you learn how, whether it's meditation or exercise or whatever, if you just learn how to be aware of that and to control it, the game-changing ability of like, telling yourself you can't, or you have a bad thought, or you're upset about this thing, or work-related, whatever, or telling yourself like it's going to be okay, or like, oh no, you can do this, you can figure this out. Like you control that. That's the hardest part to understand, that you actually control that, because once you get in that rabbit hole, you feel like you can't. You're overwhelmed by it. You're consumed, But like if you can, but that's the part to me that is like practice daily, because if I stop practicing it because life, 2-3 weeks might go by, and I might start to feel that crap piling up, and then I'll have to give myself, I'll whatever it means. Sometimes it means I'm going to read the book again. I'm just going to start reading it every night.
It's like not going to the gym for 2 to 3 weeks.
Right.
Look what happens to your muscles.
100%.
You cannot go back to the gym and lift the same weight as you did before, right? You got to work back up to it. So it's the same thing. That's why it's so important. To maintain it.
And to do it while you're in a good place is hard, in the sense that like when you're in the good place, you're just enjoying life and you're busy. I'll go tomorrow, I'll get to it. But it's like that's when you probably want to attend to it. Right. Attend to that stuff when you're in the good place, because it just that daily practice. But that was the key for me, is like figuring out like, oh, I control the inner dialogue. I control if I want to think about this past thing or future thing, because that's all that crap is. It's like
it's stories we make up too.
You're
so
either
many stories we
making up the stress, or you're stressing about the stuff that's done with, or you have no control over it. Like that's honestly, in wrestling, it's been one of my most successful tools that I have. Is I am very aware of what I control and what I don't control. So if a writer or a storyline or whatever isn't going exactly in my vision, that is not going to hinder my mood, who I am, how I come home, even how I approach my work. Hey, just tell me, what you want, and then I know what I can control.
Yeah.
And that's where, like, even circling back to like the whole it factor and all that stuff, like that's where all that stuff came in big for me, because I was like, you give me an entrance, I'll hit a home run. Give me a microphone, I'll hit a home run. Give me put me on the camera.
Yeah.
I'll make sure people see me and watch me. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like, because like that, it was that self, like,
Yeah.
learning and the life lessons that then you apply it everywhere, because it's just like, yeah, shoot, okay, I control what I control, and I'm gonna hit
Yeah.
a home run with it.
Yeah.
And all that other stuff, like, you do you, man. Like, that's cool.
What a journey, dude.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I'm happy it all went the way it did.
It's
I
crazy,
really am.
right? It
Yeah.
is the up and down. All right, so my last question to you that I always love to end this is, has your chase for glory looked the way you thought it was going to look?
Oh, heck no.
Does it ever really?
Heck no.
Right?
No way, yeah. No way at all. And you know, I think if it looked the way I thought it would look, it would probably have looked more like Kofi Kingston's. And I only use his name because him and I came up together.
Yeah.
Him and I went to the same tryout.
Yeah.
He got signed before I got signed.
Okay.
And that would have been, if this just went that way, right? He got signed.
Right.
Spent 6 months or so in developmental. Had an opportunity on the main roster. Was playing a character with
Right.
the Jamaican thing.
Right.
Ended up going, oh, I gotta probably be myself now.
Right.
Started to be himself. That took him to Intercontinental title. Took him so far. Intercontinental title. That's what every kid's dream is, because that's the work rate title.
Yeah.
Then was like, well, okay, well, now I gotta figure it out. Had a couple buddies who started brainstorming with him. That ends up taking on, I think, like, when I look at that, I'm like, that's probably how, if I wrote it down at 18, 19, I probably would have wrote it that way.
Yeah.
Like, had the 10-year journey, gets to the title at WrestleMania, you know? But it's like, I love that dude to death. I think he's one of the kindest souls I know, not in wrestling, in life. And I'm like, I think it's awesome that that's your journey and story. I'll take mine. And it's not because mine's better or different. It's just because it's mine. Like, I like that. I like that mine's mine.
Appreciate yours.
I love what mine is. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and honestly, and it's in every facet. I've talked before about, we had Willow, our little one, through in vitro, and had 6 miscarriages before she came around.
Yeah.
And even that, and how crappy and hard that was, I was like, man, I don't know that I could have possibly appreciated her as much as I do now.
Right.
If it didn't, so it's just like all of it. I'm just like, I'm not one of the people who believe everything happens for a reason. I just do believe that how you react to everything is just kind of what creates the person you are. You know, that's your character. That's your test of character. Like, how are you reacting to all these situations and things that are out of your control?
Yeah.
And like, so for me, I'm just like, man, whether it's the wrestling life or the real life, like the mixture, the combination, we're just so happy. Like, it's so happy.
You reminded me of a quote that says, 10% is what happens to you, but 90% is how you react to it.
The guy who helped with all my rehabs, Kevin Wilk out in Birmingham, he puts that on his Instagram, I feel like, once a week. And
it is 100% true.
Yeah.
Even if somebody cuts you off in traffic, it's not, that happened to you. It's the 90% how you're going to react to it. And if you just laugh it off, telling you your day will go off way better.
Yeah. Yep.
I can't thank you enough for
thank you.
everything.
Thanks for coming to the house to do it, too.
Yes, this has been amazing. I don't know if you guys see the lights changing. It's because the sun's been going in and out.
Yeah.
But I want you to definitely give your social handles out there for the importance also that you're telling people if they want to DM you.
For sure. And then I'm not, and I'll be honest with you, that's not one of them. I get back to everything. I have my moments where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna tackle this right now. So, but I get back. I always get back.
Yeah.
But yeah, both Instagram and Twitter now are NXT Ciampa, CIAMPA.
Love it.
Switched it recently to make sure that they were matching.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah.
And I also, seeing all the WWE handles, is like, let's get NXT handle out there.
Yeah,
that's where
true.
I'm going to spend the rest of my career. So
I love it.
Might as well just put it there.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck to
you. Thanks so much.
Chasing Glory with Lillian Garcia.
And there you have it, Tommaso Ciampa. Oh my gosh, guys, what an incredible story. Thank you. Thank you for being so open, so vulnerable, sharing so much of your journey, and the fact that you're embracing your journey with all its roller coasters. I love that. You are a champion is what you are. Guys, Full Sail University, I had to come back here. Okay, so I went to film school at the University of South Carolina, which is the USC, okay, because we were here first. So University of Southern California, too bad for you. Anyway, I had to show you this because being in film school, I got the opportunity to film and do some projects, and it was so much fun. So I told you about this in the intro, about the backlots that they have in their makeshift to look like it's a pharmacy, or whether you're at a restaurant or a garage. Well, here it is. It's just a facade. This is not real back here. But it's pretty cool that the students can come back here and film. This is an amazing place. Remember, Full Sail University and Full Sail Studios. Full Sail Live is right next door, and that is where NXT takes place. So just want to always thank you for following the show at Chasing Glory on Instagram, following the YouTube version of this so you can actually see it, and that is youtube.com/Lillian Garcia. Myself at Lillian Garcia on Instagram and Twitter, and Lillian Garcia official fan page on Facebook. Thanks, guys. I hope that you're having an amazing holiday season, and until next week, much peace, love, and passion to you. And remember, always be yourself and trust that it's enough. See ya. Bye.
Thanks for joining us here on Chasing Glory from executive producer Lillian Garcia. Don't forget to share this episode with your friends, and be sure to subscribe at Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your favorite shows.